Hello literature lovers! Today we are doing something a little bit different. Instead of a fictional story, today I will be reading an historical letter. Although I might add, it also reads a bit like a story. I found this one on Wikisource, and it is part of the Gems of Chinese Literature, which was published in 1922. So take everything about this with a grain of salt. It's quite old. It is a letter of Lady Chang, and she's pleading with the emperor to free her husband, who has been in prison, in order that he might get to see his dying father. And in the end, the letter was successful. He was released. So let's read it. This all takes place in the 16th century, and the husband was eventually liberated in 1567. This is what the wife writes. May it please your majesty. My husband was a censor attached to the Board of Rights. For his folly in recklessly advising your majesty, he deserves indeed 1,000 deaths. Yet, under the imperial clemency, he was doomed only to await his sentence in prison. Since then, 14 years have passed away. His aged parents are still alive, but there are no children in his hall, and the wretched man has none on whom he can rely. I alone remain, a lodger at an inn, working day and night at my needle to provide the necessaries of life. Encompassed on all sides by difficulties, to whom every day seems a year. My father-in-law is 87 years of age. He trembles on the brink of the grave. He is like a candle in the wind. I have no wherewith to nourish him alive, or to honor him when dead. I am a lone woman. If I tend to one, I lose the other. If I return to my father-in-law, my husband will die of starvation. If I remain to feed him, my father-in-law may die at any hour. My husband is a criminal, bound in gaol. He dares give no thought to his home. Yet can it be that when all living things are rejoicing in life under the wise and generous rule of today, we alone should taste the cup of poverty and distress, and find ourselves beyond the pale of universal peace? Often, as I think of these things, the desire to die comes upon me, but I swallow my grief and live on, trusting in Providence for some happy termination, some moisturing with the dew of imperial grace. And now that my father-in-law is face to face with death, now that my husband can hardly expect to live, I venture to offer this body as a hostage, to be bound in prison, while my husband returns to watch over the last hours of his father. Then, when all this is over, he will resume his place and await your majesty's pleasure. Thus, my husband will greet his father once again, and the feelings of father and child will be in some measure relieved. Thus I shall give to my father-in-law the comfort of his son, and the duty of a wife towards her husband will be fulfilled. And that concludes the touching letter. I think that the comment on the Wikisource page says it best. For every word we read, we shed a tear of blood.